Welcome back to Buffalo Live, a Tuesday edition of the show, also an AFC East clinching show. In this episode, we'll go through how the Bills clinched the East, also explain why this defense looks like the same old defense without Vaughn, and do the Bills have a Diggs problem? Find out all the answers next. Thanks for tuning in. This show will be done more consistent on a consistent basis. We were trying to figure out some logistics on how to run this show and how you guys will be hearing from us on a weekly basis. The show will be running every Tuesday and Saturday. Now let's get to some tons of breaking news in the NFL and in the NHL. Breaking on Monday, Nathaniel Hackett fired only after 15 games. League sources tell CBS Sports NFL Insider, Broncos are looking to blow it up. That probably means they're trying, to rebuild and do something better with their organization because it has not worked out for them. They're 4-11 through 15 games with Nathaniel Hackett. Russell Wilson's productivity has gone down in his game. Russell Wilson this season has a 60.1 completion percentage, 3,019 yards, 7.2 average, and also 12 touchdowns with 9 interceptions. All his totals are down from last year when he was with the Seattle Seahawks. In 2021, Russell Wilson had a 64.8 completion percentage, 3,103 yards, 7.8 for an average, 25 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. So you see it. He has three more interceptions than last year. His touchdowns are well below last year's average. Also, he's probably going to have more yards thrown this year than last year, but obviously it has been a down year throwing the football for Russell Wilson, and this offense has looked putrid under Nathaniel Hackett. They're 25th in yards per game with 316.6. 21st in passing yards per game, 209.1. 22nd in rushing yards per game, 107.5, and last in points per game with 15.5 points per game, and also 20 turnovers, which is mid-pack in the NFL. Nathaniel Hackett has not done anything good for the Broncos organization at all through 15 games this season. Also, the NFL has flexed the Steelers-Ravens game, which was supposed to be on 4:25 on CBS on Sunday. It's now flexed to a Sunday night spotlight. The Chargers will play the Rams to fill that 4:25 void. Also, in the NFL, Tua Tagovailoa is back in concussion protocol for the second time this season. My goodness, this is after the fact that he had a concussion against the Bills. Then 4 days later, played in Cincinnati, and his status for Sunday's game is doubtful, according to Ian Rappaport. He played the entire second half with the concussion. That is insane, right? Back of his head hit the ground on a sack by a Packers defensive lineman. Back of his head just slams right into the ground, and I guess the spotter didn't spot anything in that particular moment, but he played what looks like the entire second half with a concussion, which again, it happened against the Bills, right? Tua, leaves the game with a head injury. If I can remember correctly, he came back in that game, and then 4 days later played against the Cincinnati Bengals, which caused his hands literally curl up into whatever happened. I mean, we know his hands just curled up and he just is sitting there. He is okay, but I honestly think the NFLPA again needs to take action on this, because Miami could have false cleared him and been playing with a concussion still. I mean, let's take a look. He was out 3 weeks after the Bengals game, right? The Bengals game happened. That was 4 days after he had a concussion against the Bills. While with that, he missed 3 weeks with the concussion, right? He was 3 weeks, not for the first 2 weeks, he wasn't clearing concussion protocol, and now he's 3 weeks later, he's back, which seems very short, what I would say, which seems very short after what happened in Cincinnati, and then they're spending 3 weeks. I mean, and then a week before in Buffalo. The timetable of his return seemed very sketchy to many after he returned 3 weeks after the Cincinnati game. I mean, a lot of people were, scratching their heads like, is this really the Tua? Are we really seeing Tua back on the field 3 weeks after the fact? His hands were literally curled up against the Bengals, and in that Bengals game, his back of his head did hit the ground, did slam into the ground. So obviously, you see, his back of his head hit the ground against Buffalo, concussion. Back of his head, 4 days later, his back of his head again hits the ground against the Bengals. His hands curl up, and obviously a concussion. He spends 3 weeks sitting and recovering from his concussion. A few weeks after he comes back against the Green Bay Packers on Christmas Eve, boom, back of his head slams into the ground on Christmas Eve and plays the second half with a concussion. You kind of see the relationship here, is that every time his back of his head is going to get hit by the ground in any velocity, he's going to leave the game with concussion, and which will add more, brain damage to whatever damage he has, because obviously he has to have some brain damage after what he suffered against the Cincinnati Bengals. There is no reason why the NFL or NFLPA should look into this. There's no reason, right? They have to. They have to look into this and the timetable leading up to his return and to now, and what steps the Miami Dolphins are taking, because obviously whatever they're doing in Miami, they're not doing a good enough job on. They're not. And it's sickening. I have literally, when this news came out on Monday, I had no words whatsoever except pure anger to the Miami Dolphins and how they're handling Tua Tagovailoa and what his future could look like. Right? We all know this game against Green Bay, he had 3 interceptions. And guess what? All of them in the second half, and all of them on 3 straight drives. I'm going to tell you, that hit to the head in the first half probably caused those 3 interceptions, because he probably had a headache and couldn't see. And then on Monday evening, Mike McDaniel says, yeah, he's in concussion protocol. Yeah, concussion protocol for the second time this season. The NFL, it's either a suspension has to happen, a loss of picks. They already lost a first-round pick. Something has to happen. The NFL has to step in and protect Tua. I mean, I'm a straight-up Bills fan, and I don't like the Dolphins, but Bills fans care more for Tua than what Dolphins fans do. I mean, yes, there's some nice Dolphins fans in Miami right now probably feeling bad for Tua. Again, he's going to have to miss time. But to me, it's just what they want is him to go back on the field. I'm going to tell you, you're going to scroll through Dolphins Twitter and you're going to see a Dolphins fan, oh, he's going to be okay to play in Sunday's game against the Patriots. He's going to be fine. He's going to be fine. He's going to be okay. No, he's not. He's not going to be okay, and he should not start on Sunday against the New England Patriots, and he should not start in the final game of the season against whomever they play. I think is the Jets. So I think the Dolphins and Tua need to take a hard look and say, is playing him Sunday and the week after good for his future in his life after football and now? I mean, something has to happen. I mean, I'm sitting here, I'm thinking like, do we have to suspend Mike McDaniels? Do we have to suspend the spotter? Do we have to fire the spotter? Do we have to, because they already fired their medical team before. The NFL let that medical team go after the Bills game. And, a week or so after the Cincinnati game, after what was the fallout of that Cincinnati game, him leaving in the stretcher. I mean, Tua doesn't deserve this. The Dolphins fans don't deserve this. The Dolphins organization certainly does not deserve this, but they're obviously not handling Tua very well. We'll also talk a little bit more about this later as we get more information from obviously leak sources all over Twitter. We'll be following this. Obviously, Ian Rappaport, Adam Schefter, and everyone else will have more updates on Tua later. But also some breaking news in the NHL. Alex Ovechkin's at 802. He's climbing the leaderboard list. He passed Gordie Howe over the weekend. Congratulations for him. He's 97 goals away from passing 97 goals away from Wayne Gretzky. So a historic monument for Alex Ovechkin heading into the Christmas Day weekend and obviously into the slate of games happening this week after the mandatory Christmas break for the NHL. Also, the Buffalo Sabres will not play tonight's game against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Game again was originally set for tonight at 7:30 on ESPN Plus and Hulu. That will not happen because the Buffalo airport is closed until at least 11 a.m. on Wednesday. The Bills had to literally travel to Rochester yesterday. I mean, they came into Rochester this morning. The Bills drove down from Rochester to Buffalo to unpack their cars. I think this morning, as well too, or this afternoon, something like that, on Monday afternoon. But there will be no Sabres game tonight against the Blue Jackets. Again, there is no timetable on when this game is going to be rescheduled. The original plan for the Sabres was to do a morning skate on Tuesday morning and fly into Columbus later that day. Again, there is no rescheduling updates to give you at this moment, or in other words, it's still in the works by the NFL by the NHL. The Sabres have not played a game in 10 days. Last game was December 19th versus the Vegas Golden Knights in a win. Sabres are currently in a 4-game winning streak, including 3 on that Western Coast trip. Sabres, again, postponed this game. They also postponed the December 23rd game versus Tampa Bay, which that game will also be rescheduled later in the year. So a lot of Christmas juggling for the Buffalo Sabres and an extended Christmas break for the Buffalo Sabres, and obviously not what they were hoping for. I mean, an extended Christmas. Their next game is going to be Thursday against the Detroit Red Wings, I believe, in Buffalo. And that game will be played in Buffalo, I believe. That'll be a 7 o'clock puck drop on Thursday in MSG. And now, let's head into the Buffalo Bills. Let's talk about the Buffalo Bills now as we subside from the breaking news that we've been talking about for the first 15 minutes of this show. I mean, the Bills, obviously, we all know, they had to beat the Bears and to clinch the AFC East. And the Bills did. They won 35-13, and it wasn't the most prettiest game offensively. Josh Allen didn't play up to his standards. Obviously, there was 20-mile-per-hour winds that game, man. He threw 2 interceptions, but he also threw 2 touchdowns in that game against the Bears. Josh Allen, it wasn't a Josh Allen game, which is okay. The weather impacted this game, but they got it done. They dug down, they dug deep, and they won the game. And they got the AFC East for the 3rd time in 3 years. And remember, remember the NFL media were talking about the Miami Dolphins possibly taking the AFC East away from the Buffalo Bills, but it's obviously did not happen. The Miami Dolphins are on a 5-game skid. That means Buffalo is on a 6-game winning streak. And that's what helped the Buffalo Bills clinch the AFC East. We'll talk about later in the show about could a number 1 seed potentially hurt the Buffalo Bills in this scenario. I'll give you some valid numbers and scores and statistics about why a number 1 seed could potentially be bad for the Buffalo Bills. But we're going to talk about them clinching the East. I mean, let's look at it. Devin Singletary in this game had 12 carries for 106 yards, 8.8 per average, and 1 touchdown, and his long was 33 yards. James Cook had 11 carries, 99 yards, 99.0 for an average, and 1 touchdown, and a 27-yard run was his long. Josh Allen was part of the run game, 6 carries, 41 yards, 6.8 for an average, and 1 touchdown. 1 rushing touchdown as well. He also had a long of 15 yards. I mean, this run offense has really done its job, right? I mean, Devin Singletary, obviously an inconsistent start to the season for him, which would be subside numbers for him. I mean, obviously, this was the year we really wanted to see what does Devin Singletary really look like? Does he really have earned his rights to be a Buffalo Bill and earn another contract coming off his rookie year, his rookie deals, and from his rookie deals? I mean, here's the thing. Devin Singletary, he's an undersized running back. And, as an undersized running back at his age, at 26 years old, 3 years in the NFL, in the first 2 years, he was struggling. He was struggling, 1, to get onto the field, and 2, he's a shifty. He reminds me of a smaller LaShawn McCoy, because LaShawn McCoy had great vision and had great shiftiness. Oh my goodness, I'm blanking here for a second. For Devin Singletary, I mean, he's small, but he's also shifty. He could break tackles. It takes more than one person to take down Devin Singletary at his height. It takes more than one person at his height. Only one person should be able to take him down, but it takes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different players to tackle Devin Singletary. I mean, Devin Singletary, most of his attempts come in first and 10 or first and 10 and below, right? He's not good in first and 10, or he's not good in first, second, or third and long. He's good in first, second, and third and short. That's where most of his Devin Singletary's carries come from. It comes in short yardage situations where they can pull a blocker or two and he hits the hole. I mean, that's what he does, but he also can shift instead of going to the A gap, he can go to the B gap, and which is wonderful for the Bills, because sometimes the run blocking is not so great. But it has been over the last few weeks. I mean, he's also really good in Devin Singletary has improved in the opposing territory, especially in the red zone. He has 32 attempts this year for 85 yards, 2.1 average, and 4 touchdowns when the Bills enter the red area of the opposing zone. He's really done a good job as exploding the opposing defense in the red zone, shedding tackles, putting his shoulder down, and running through that A gap, B gap, or C gap, wherever they want him to run the ball to. I mean, again, I keep saying it before. This guy has motors. He's going to keep moving his feet. That's why his nickname is Motor, because he's always going to move his feet. He's always going to do something with his feet to make something happen. He's also a pass catching. He's not really a pass catching back, but he's definitely a good enough back to go out there and catch a ball and make a guy or two miss. But I mean, he had 37 snaps in that game against Chicago, which accounts to 58%. He was on the field for 58% of the offensive snaps against the Chicago Bears, which is pretty good. I mean, he's out there for at least half of the snaps, which means we're using him a little bit more. But the downside of this, when I seen looking at the stats, is that when he is out for at least 70% or more of the snaps, the Bills have 3 losses. In those 3 games, it came against the Dolphins, the Dolphins, the Jets, and the Vikings. Those were only the 3 Buffalo Bills losses, and that's what he had more of the snaps, at least 70% of the snaps happened in those games, because they were hard and grind out wins, right? I mean, he was on the ball. He was on for most of those snaps. I'm not saying he can't be out there for 75% of the snaps, but obviously when he's on the field more than he should, the Bills are not going to do a good enough job to get it done. And in this game, it became a run-heavy game, right, against the Bears. It became a run-heavy game, and obviously at times, when you're going for 8-9 yards to carry, you continue to run the ball, and Ken Dorsey, obviously, he is a quarterback himself, right? He played the quarterback position, so his mind is pass. We have to win the game with the passing game. It's not run or die, it's pass or die. So he has to understand that giving Devin Singletary and James Cook, who are going for 8-9 yards, 7-8-9 yards a carry, that's what's going to help you win the football game. And in that second half, he had a better play calling scheme in that second half, which was hand the ball off to Singletary, hand the ball off to Cook, and give the ball to Josh Allen to run the football with. One thing I kind of wanted to see in that game against Chicago was the short passing game. Obviously, the short passing game this year hasn't been the greatest, but I really wanted to see the short passing game a little bit more in that Chicago game. Also, kind of wanted to see it in that Miami game. You're not going to live. You're not going to survive in the playoffs by playing the really big game, right? You're not going to be winning tons of playoff games if the only thing you want to do is pass the ball 45 times, and 25, 30 of those balls are for balls thrown or for 35 plus yards. You're going to have to get the ball into Knox's hands and into Diggs' hands, or into Beasley's hands, or into Davis's hands, in the short to intermediate throws, right? The 5 to 10 yard throws. Nothing 15 or more. Start playing this short passing game. Get that short passing game involved a little bit more, and it will help this Bills offense, I would think, right? Because look at Josh Allen. You look at his charts. It slants to the right and slants to the left in curl routes, right? He's more productive quarterback, Josh Allen, if you throw the ball to the right. Most of his throws are to the right, but because he has a better success rate throwing the football to the right. So if you do a curl route to the right, the chances are 80% or 90% of the time, that's probably a completed pass because Josh Allen can throw to the right. Say now, if you do a curl route to the left for 10 yards, the chances become 80, right? Because he's not really good throwing to his left. So, you kind of see it here, right? You got to get this short passing game going, because you're not going to always be, push Josh Allen to the right and hopefully he can catch the football, right? You can't. So the thing is that this offense, yes, it's built to be pass first. But the Bills had the 26th ranked offensive line. So how do you give this offensive line some help? Is running the football. And the Bills have done that effectively in the last 3-4 games, which is a very, very good sign heading into the later part of the season and heading into a playoff race. Which is because the Bills are going to have to run the football in the postseason if they want home field advantage. 0 versus Chicago. Well, I have a little nugget for you, for Devin Singletary. Versus Chicago, 0 of his carries went for negative yards. 5 went for 5 yards or more. 5 went for at least 5 yards. 2 of them went for more than 5 yards, including that 33-yard touchdown. I mean, the Bills' run blocking has been effective. Bills' pass blocking hasn't been the greatest. It doesn't seem like the Bills can do both at the same time. And the Bills, with Eric Kromer, is definitely going to have to fix that, because it's not going to work if your offensive line can do one thing and it can't do the other. They have to do both. This is the Bills' first game with 250 plus yards rushing in a game since Christmas Eve 2016, and a OT loss to the Dolphins. In that game, LaShawn McCoy had 24 carries, 128 yards, 1 touchdown, and 5.3 for an average. Mike Gillislee, remember his name? Mike Gillislee went 11 carries, 91 yards, 8.3 yards, and 8.3 for an average. And Tyrod Taylor went 12 carries and 60 yards. So very similar to what the Bills did in this game. That was a home game. I remember that. I was watching it because the Bills were obviously that season probably not going to make the playoffs. I mean, Bills were riding a sub 500 record, but they were close enough to 500 where they can get it to 8-8. But Mike Carpenter missed the field goal in overtime, which allowed the Dolphins to drive the field and get their own field goal themselves to win that football game. And it was a wild game, by the way. That game, I remember sitting down watching it, and I was like, dang. I mean, we were doing pretty okay in that game. And it was just heartbreaking how that game ended in itself. Let's see. What does this show? What does this game show? Or this season in itself show, right? Look at, what are we? 12-3? Yeah, we're 12-3. Are we 11-3? We're 12-3, right? I believe so. I forgot the Bills' record for a second, guys. Oh dear. Let's quickly look it up. I thought last check. Yeah, we're 12-3 because we played 15 games this season. Just remember that we're 12-3. Whew. Man, I'm gonna get murdered here by Bills Mafia. I forgot the Bills' record for a quick second, which is not good at all. I mean, we're 12-3 now. What does this season show in a nutshell, right? What does, to this point of the season, show? Obviously, we're 15 games in, and also we have 2 games left in the season against the Bengals and against the Patriots in the final game of the year. So, I mean, I'm not wrapping up this season and putting a bow on it, but, I mean, we clinched the AFC East. We played a very hard schedule. So, let's kind of reflect just a little bit on what has the Bills done and what have they grown for, right? What have they grown? To me, this season has shown a lot of growth in this team. Yeah, there's been a lot of inconsistent play, but this team is a team first team, and I love it. I love watching their Twitter videos. They're a pretty family oriented team, but what this team has shown, the Bills can win 1-score games. Wait, what? Hey, Colin Coward, yes, we can win 1-score games. But, I mean, there is no but, sorry. I don't know why I said but there. But, well, anyways, I gotta stop saying but. Let's look at it. I mean, let's look at some of the tough teams they played. They played week 1. Thursday Night Football, kickoff game of the year. They're kicking off in LA. Everyone's staring at. This is the game. It's the Bills versus the Rams. This could definitely be a Super Bowl, a week one, a possibility, a Super Bowl prediction, right? That it could be, right? Bills just thump the Rams in week one, 31-10. That's what the Bills did. They thumped them, 31-10. Just give them a big slap in the face to the Rams. And the Rams season has just gone beyond par. Week 2, another tough opponent. Opponent that has gotten their number at least twice in the last 2 seasons. The Tennessee Titans. They thump them at home, 41-7. Alright, so those first 2 games were quite tough. Week 3, Miami. It's hot. It's humid. It's ugh. We're in the sun. We lose 21-19. Week 4, against the Ravens. It's raining. It's yucky. It's ugh. Again, the weather. Ugh. The Bills come back from behind and win 23-20. Statement game. Week 6. We're gonna jump to week 6. Kansas City. They win 24-20. Thank you, Matt Milano. Week 8, Packers. Again, look at some of these teams we played so far. We played the Rams, Titans, Dolphins, Ravens, and Chiefs, and now here we go. Aaron Rodgers, 27-17 victory. Bingo. Week 9, the Jets. Who expected the Jets? Week 9, against the Jets, having a at or above 500 record. I did not. They lose, 20-17. Allen also gets hurt. The following week, they played Minnesota. They lose in overtime, 33-10. The following week 14, Miami, they win 32-29, and they have Cincinnati in week 17. The Bills played a putrid schedule. Looking at it, they were mediocre. They had a mediocre schedule. They were middle of the pack in schedule when the schedule came out, and so now as games are played, this schedule has gotten tougher. As games were played, games got tougher. People started to win, and the Bills' strength of schedule also went up. We had at one point our strength of schedule was .507, which was the toughest in the league. I literally, when I said 507, I wrote it down and I circled it. That's impressive. We're 12-3, and we beat all these teams that were above 500 at one point in the season, right? But also this shows that we can win one-score games. Bills were 5-1 before the bye. They're 7-2 after the bye. And in one-score games this year, 6-3. 6 of their 12 wins came by one score, which is impressive. Last year, if you look at the Bills compared to last year, the Bills were 0-5 in one-score games. I mean, they just did not play well. They also had an overtime loss built in that too. But you look at their one-score game loses. They lose to Tennessee in the final play of the game, 34-31. They lose by a one possession and by a poor decision by Josh Allen week 1 versus Pittsburgh, 23-16. And then one of their one-score losses came 33-27 to Tampa Bay and the Buccaneers in overtime. And then you look at the year before, we were 5-1, and the one-score game loss came against Arizona. I mean, we played some pretty tough teams over the past few years. We also lost some pretty tough games. But it shows this team is a tough team to beat on any given Sunday. I mean, a lot of people say, oh, the Bills can't win one-score games. The Bills can't do this. I mean, why? Why do you have to say that? Because the Bills can do it. The Bills are a tough team to beat, because all their losses basically come one score, because it's tough to beat us. You either beat us by a field goal on the last play of the game, or in overtime on the last play of the game. That's the only way you're beating us, because there's no way through this defense. There is no way through this defense. And we also have Josh Allen, and Josh Allen comes in clutch in offense. There is no way you could beat this team by more than one score. Yeah, I mean, unless you beat us like last year again with Indy. We lost to Indy last year 41-15. But that was during our midseason lull. We didn't, but guess what? After a 41-15 loss, the Bills bounced back on Christmas and destroyed the Saints that following week in Week 12. So, I mean, the Bills, if you thump us, we learn and we adjust. That's what the Bills do, because we love to learn. We love to grow, and there's so much growing the Bills have to do this season. They have the Bengals. In the next episode, we will preview that Bills-Bengals game, which would be very entertaining indeed. Now let's head into maybe a problem the Bills have run into. Stephon Diggs, right? Do the Bills have a Diggs problem? I'm going to say no. For this reason only, is because what the Bills have done this season, and what has Josh Allen done this season without any weapons, without Stephon Diggs is really Josh Allen's only dependable target, right? And Stephon Diggs that's his only dependable target. Is that Josh Allen's only dependable target is Stephon Diggs, and that's what it is. Stephon Diggs this season has 101 receptions, 1,325 yards, 13.1 is his average per catch, and 10 touchdowns. Stephon Diggs is one touchdown away from having a career year in touchdowns. So to me, for him asking for the ball, giving the ball, is because he knows giving him the football is going to help us win games. Giving him the football is the way the Bills are going to win games. Did we show against Chicago that we can win games without Stephon Diggs getting the football? Yeah, he had 2 catches for like 25 yards against the Bears. Well, one because of the wind, and 2, the run offense was good. The Bills are not going to ride and die by the run game whatsoever. The Bills are going to ride and die by the pass game, and that's what the Bills would do. And that's what the Bills will always do. Even if a game depends on the run, the Bills are going to ride and die on the pass offense. They're going to, because of how the Bills are built. They have Josh Allen. Josh Allen can throw the football. Yeah, if he's having an off day, they're going to give it to Devin Singletary if he's having a good day. What if both players are not having a good day? You go to your best receiver. You go to your best person, which is Stephon Diggs, right? If Josh Allen's having a bad day, Devin Singletary's having a bad day. But hey, Stephon Diggs has 0 targets and 0 yards and 0 catches, 0 touchdowns. That's a lot of zeros for Stephon Diggs, who is one of the league leaders in yards, in receiving yards, one of the league leaders in receptions this year. So if he has 0 targets, 0 receptions, 0 yards, and 0 touchdowns, that's 4 zeros Stephon Diggs should not have, and he needs the football. And that's what's going to frustrate him when he sees his stat line at halftime, or getting toward halftime, with 4 zeros on it. You can't have Stephon Diggs in any shape or form have zeros. I mean, the 2 catches that Diggs had were also big catches. I'm going to say they were big catches. They kept drives going. They got him into the game. They got this offense. It sparked this offense a little bit against Chicago. So, I mean, Stephon Diggs is really the only dependable target the Bills have on offense. Yeah, they're finally getting Dawson Knox back into this football game. They're finally getting Knox back into this offense. Gabe Davis only has 45 receptions this year for 797 yards and 7 touchdowns. Yeah, they're not throwing the ball to Gabe Davis because you know why? Gabe Davis is always dropping the dang thing. That's why they're not giving it to Gabe Davis, because he's always dropping the football. I mean, we signed Cole Beasley, and he's only played 10% of the snaps in 2 games. 10% might be high, might be spitballing too high, but I'm just spitballing there. How many percentages of the snaps he got? But I expect against the Cincinnati Bengals, we're going to have to use him. I mean, why haven't the Bills used Khalil Shakir? I mean, look at what he's done in this season. I don't have his stats in front of me, but when he's on the field, he's done a pretty good darn job catching the football up the middle of the field. Put him in the slot. Try him. The Bills, for some reason, refuse to use rookies, and it infuriates me because Stephon Diggs cannot be the only target the Bills have, and it can't happen. I mean, what Josh Allen has done this season, throw for over 4,000 yards and 32 touchdowns this season without more than one receiver catching the football. Yeah, they've spread it around just a little bit, but most of their targets and receptions are going to 1-4. I mean, not saying that the Bills can't just use 1-4 win football games. We can definitely do that. But in the postseason, what our teams are going to do? They're going to see 1-4 and they're going to double cover him. They're going to play zone, and they're going to have one in front of him and a couple behind him. So he catches the football, he's going to have to catch it in contest. So, I mean, that's what the Bills are going to have to deal with in the playoffs. But what Josh Allen's done this season is beyond remarkable. I mean, you look at his rushing totals: 15 attempts, 746 yards, 6.5 in average, and 7 touchdowns on the ground. What he has done for this team is beyond incredible. He's 2 touchdowns away from his career, from breaking his career record in touchdowns. He's 7 away from his career and for his career and for rushing attempts. 17 yards away from breaking his career record in yards. 6 rushing touchdowns away to break Steve Young's career rushing touchdowns. 2 away from Jack Kemp, who is second all time. Josh Allen in passing, he's 378 passing yards away from his career in yards, and he's four away from his career passing touchdowns, which he set just a few years ago. I mean, just incredible. We're 12-1, and Josh Allen is doing all this great stuff. Let's head into this defense, right? This defense has not, since Von Miller has been out, we're going to look at at least the last 3 weeks. We're just going to take in perspective the last 3 weeks of the season, the last 3 weeks without Von Miller, who was brought in to finish the job. He tore his ACL, out for the season, out for part of next season, but the Bills' defense took a better step than what they did in the previous 2 games. Against the Jets, they had 309 total. They allowed 309 total yards, 233 passing yards, 76 rushing yards. Against the Dolphins, 405 total yards, 188 rushing, and 234 passing yards. Against the Bears, 80 total rushing yards, 129 passing yards, and 1 interception that was against Nate Peterman, and also 209 total yards. So, what does these last 3 games account for? 923 total yards against, 596 passing yards against, and 344 rushing yards against. So, that, to me, 923 total yards, to me, seems pretty big, right? Seems like a pretty big number. But in the last 3 weeks, and especially last game against the Bills done a good enough job to keep teams far away so their offense can start cooking. And that's what this defense has done without Von. But to me, this defense looks like the same old defense without Von. Looks like the defense we had last year. Bend but don't break. But hey, we might miss a tackle or two. This looks like the same old defense from last year. I mean, with Von, when Von is in the lineup, it brings an extra spark. Obviously, I know we're without Micah Hyde. I know we're also out. Trey White is not 100% or not back to old Trey White. I understand that, but this defense looks like the same old defense without Vaughn. It doesn't have the same glam. It doesn't have the same spark. It just doesn't seem the same to me. It doesn't seem anything better than last year without Vaughn. Yes, I know this defense is young. I completely understand that, but that gives no excuse. Yes, you're with one of your best pass rushers. Yeah, it's going to affect you. You're going to be out with one of your best safeties. It's going to affect you. I understand that. But the Bills' defense does not look the same without Vaughn, and it does not look the same without Micah Hyde. I mean, let's take Micah Hyde out of the conversation because we have Jordan Poyer. Micah Hyde has been out all season, and we've been fine without him. We'll talk Micah Hyde another day and his contract another day. But here's the thing. Von Miller was added to be a finisher, a closer. The Bills don't have that. The Bills don't have that closer to get around in a big moment to get a big sack or a big stop. But the game against the Bears showed me, okay, gave me a spark where I can go and sit here and say, yes, the Bills might be fine heading into the postseason without Vaughn. Yes, we've been fine and we've been winning without Vaughn defensively, which is hooray, keeps me from stressing out each Sunday. But watching in the beginning of that Bears game, the Bears were having success offensively. They were passing the ball well. They were running the ball well. But eventually the Bills sat down, they discussed, and they adjusted. And I think that's what the Bills are going to have to do. They're going to sit down and they're going to have to adjust. Because you're not going to be playing the Chicago Bears in the playoffs. The Bears are an easy team. They're just an easy team. You can stop them offensively, right? But you're going to get a game like the Dolphins, for example. You're going to play teams that are tough as the Dolphins. You're going to get the Chiefs, right? You're going to get the Cincinnati Bengals. We had the Bengals next week, and we're going to preview that game in the next episode. And because you're going to get these tough teams, the Bills are going to have to learn how to stop. But also, let's kind of wrap this back, is that the Bills are also going to have to win one-score games in the playoffs, and that's what the Bills have done this season, is because their defense has been playing at an exceptionally high level. Greg Rousseau is developing into a phenomenal player. Boogie Basham looks like a better player than last year. I mean, how about Matt Milano? My goodness, Matt Milano could be Defensive Player of the Year. He had 2 fabulous stops against the Chicago Bears. Obviously, one thing that's been haunting this Bills defense this year is missed tackles. I think we're going to talk a little bit about that next episode, because we're going to transition into could a number 1 seed hurt the Buffalo Bills? You're probably thinking right now, wait, what? You said what? Yeah, I said it. Yeah, a number 1 seed could potentially hurt the Buffalo Bills. Why? Because there has not been a number 1 seed yet in the last 2 seasons. We're going to just do 2 seasons, 2020 and 2021. We're going to look at those 2 seasons alone. In the last 2 seasons, a number 1 seed did not win the Super Bowl. And only one number 1 seed has, in the last 2 seasons, made it to the Super Bowl. That was the Kansas City Chiefs in 2020, when they lost horrifically to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But it's not what the number 1 seed did in the playoffs. It has a factor, but it was also what happened before they entered the playoffs, right? The Bills are riding a high. I mean, their 6-game winning streak, they could potentially finish the season with 8 straight wins. Or they could enter the postseason winning 7 of the last 8, or just winning 6 of the last 8. whatever how it worked out, those are the 3 ways it can work out. But I want to go through the last 2 years. The Super Bowl winner and the number 1 seed. Because in 2021, the Super Bowl winner was the LA Rams. We know that. They were the number 4 seed. They faced the Cincinnati Bengals, who were also a 4 seed in the AFC. Green Bay was the number 1 seed in the NFC, was a divisional round exit to the San Francisco 49ers, and Tennessee was in the AFC divisional round exit to the Cincinnati Bengals. 2020, the Packers again, number 1 seed, lost in the championship game to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and in 2020, the Chiefs were the 1 seed in the AFC, and they lost in the Super Bowl. So only one number 1 seed has made it to the Super Bowl, or who has reached the Super Bowl in the last 2 seasons. That was the Kansas City Chiefs in 2020. But I would like to go through those teams and tell you what were these number 1 seeds and the Super Bowl winner heading into, what did it look like for them heading into the postseason? Because it kind of mirrors what the Bills are about to head into with right now if they hold on to the number 1 seed, because they lose 1 game, they're just going to fall down to the 2 seed or the 3 seed, which may not be the baddest idea or the baddest thing ever, right? I mean, the Bills are the 2 seed, they still have 2 home games and need some help to get the 3rd, but let's go to the 2020 Chiefs. Won final 10 of their last 11 games, right? They entered the playoffs. They beat the Cleveland Browns 22-17. They beat the Buffalo Bills 38-24 and lost to the Super Bowl 31-9. That's how their season ended in the postseason. The 2020 Bucks were the 5 seed in the NFC and won the game and won the Super Bowl. They were Super Bowl champions in their home field in a weird year. But what did the Bucks do? They won 4 of the last 6. They had to play 4 playoff games. 31-23 against the Washington Commanders in the wild card round. Next round, division order, 30-20 against New Orleans. Conference championship, 31-26 against the Green Bay Packers, who were the 1 seed and won. And they won against the Kansas City Chiefs. They were 31 which was a 31-9 win. What about the Green Bay Packers? What about the Green Bay Packers in 2020, who were the 1 seed? They were the 1 seed. They won their last 6 games. Yes, they beat the Rams at home, 32-18, a confident win, but they lost 31-26 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Did not go to the Super Bowl or even win the Super Bowl, which was a fantastic year, by the way, for Aaron Rodgers. He won the MVP that year and did not make it to the Super Bowl. And only Aaron Rodgers has only won the Super Bowl once. 2021, right? The Titans. Fantastic season. They suffered tons of injuries. They won 4 of their last 5 to get the 1 seed. And they lost 19-16 to the 4th seed Cincinnati Bengals. The Packers in 2021, who were awarded the 1 seed last year, won 6 of their last 8 games with the 1 seed. They had the 1 seed. And they lost 13-10 to the San Francisco 49ers at Lambeau Field. Again, another MVP caliber season by Aaron Rodgers. 2021, let's look at the Rams, right? What did the Rams have to do to get to the Super Bowl? Well, they won 5 of the last 7 to get the 4 seed. They had to beat Arizona 34-11, beat Tampa Bay 30-27, beat San Francisco 20-17, and beat Cincinnati in the Super Bowl 23-20. So they had to win 4 games, 3 of them at home, 1 of them on the road. That was Tampa Bay. That was their only road game. What about the Bengals? I didn't have the Bengals here, sorry. But that kind of fascinates me. What did the Bengals do? You know, in that game against. What did the Bengals do in 2021 to get into one, obviously to get into the playoffs, and two, to honestly win to get to the Super Bowl? Obviously, they had to win 4 games, but the Bengals were not a give me NFL football team. They had to win 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 they won 5 of the last 8 games to get into the postseason. They were 10-7 last year, so they got to the Super Bowl. This doesn't, to me, anything can happen on any given Sunday in the postseason. Yes, as much as I would love the Bills to have the number 1 seed in the NFL, the Bills will have to ride an 8-game winning streak into the postseason. That scares me, because they're going to have to spend an entire week watching Wild Card Weekend, resting. That momentum goes away in that entire week. That momentum is going to go all away. And they're going to have to get themselves prepared for any one of those teams. Whether it's the Ravens or the Chargers or the Dolphins or the Chiefs. It could be any one of those teams that were on that wild card weekend. And it scares the crap out of me that what the Bills may have to face with the 1 seed. There has not been luck with the 1 seed in the last few seasons. And especially not in the last 2. Yes, one team in the last 2 seasons made as a 1 seed made it to the Super Bowl. That was the Chiefs, but they lost in the Super Bowl. The Bills lost 4 straight Super Bowls. The Bills want to win another. And I think the best path to the playoff to the Super Bowl is the Bills getting the 2 seed. Yes, the 1 seed is great, but I feel the 2 seed will be even better. What also this shows, the Bills are going to have to win 1-score games in the postseason. We'll talk a little bit more of that next time in our next episode. But this concludes this episode of Buffalo Live. Thank you for tuning in, and always go Bills.